Hey, Curt Hennig fans. Hello and welcome to another episode of Curt Hennig Was It Best? Changed My Mind. I am your host, Steph. This is episode 28. Today on our Perfect Podcast, we're going to watch along to Curt's match with Shawn Michaels at SummerSlam 1993. This match was kind of a letdown because I thought Curt should have won the IC belt and be the only 3P, but that's not what happened. We've reached another milestone of 4,000 subs. So I have another question that was asked, which was from username Grapentine739. Her question was, what year did Hogan become Hollywood Hogan? This is a perfect question, which I will answer in the next segment. But before we start, please join me on my YouTube and Rumble channels where if you like what you hear, you can subscribe, comment, like, and share so we can grow these channels. The links for both will be in the description field below this video. I have a new theme song. Of course, because of copyright reasons, I will only be able to show it at the beginning of my episode on Rumble. So to see this special Rumble exclusive only, check out the link for my Rumble channel in the description field below this video. Please check it out today. I would like to give a shout out and thank you to my paid patron supporter, Charlie Brown Politics. Thank you, Charlie Brown, for your support. If you too would like to support my channel for as low as $1 a month, please click the link in the description field below this video to become a paid patron supporter. You will also get your name read on the show. For $3 a month, you will get your name read on the show, and you get to ask me a question which I will read and answer. For $5 a month, you get all this plus an exclusive behind the scenes of how I do my show and also a blooper reel because, believe me, I screw up a lot. For $10, you get all this and access to a live patron show where you can learn more about me. So please click the link in the description field below this video to sign up today. We have reached our next milestone. We have reached 4,000 subscribers on YouTube. Please help me to reach my next milestone and get 5,000 subscribers. Please also help me to reach 100 Rumble followers. All links will be in the description field below this video. You can now follow me on Locals for free. If you would like to support the show, you can for just $2 a month on Locals. Thank you for your support. Okay, guys, we are back from that beginning. So, I just want to say, I got a new microphone, so everything is going sweet with this thing. I love it. It is the same microphone that, Jimmy Dore uses. So I'm very, very, very excited. I think I'm just going to go ahead and move it to my desired, height and, use it that way. But in fact, I don't even use the guard. Like I have a guard for, in front of it. I'm not going to even use that. So I just want to let everyone know, if you do hear the wind in the background, unfortunately it is very windy tonight. It's just something that we cannot kind of help. It's just, it's just one of them things, just gotta roll the punches, so to speak. So we're gonna talk about, Curt's match with Shawn Michaels at 1993 SummerSlam. And the question, of course, from Grapentine, which was a great question. I already knew this answer, so I'm going to answer it and then talk a little bit about it. So the answer to her question, when did Hogan become Hollywood Hogan? That would be 1996, and that would be at Bash at the Beach. 1996, Hogan was the third man for the NWO. This is when, Scott Hall and Kevin Nash would be the outsiders, and they would start a group called the NWO. And of course, there was talks about a third guy. We had heard everyone from Sting to, Savage to, we had heard all these people were going to be guy number 3 or man number 3. Mysterious man number 3. And as we all know, at the end of Bash at the Beach, Hogan does come out and he, it looks like he's going to help out Savage, and then all of a sudden he gives Savage the leg drop and becomes the third man or third guy for the NWO. And this was, it was a time when I think Eric Bischoff had done this a couple of years beforehand with Hogan. In fact, he had talked about this on his podcast, that he had shown up at Hogan's house and actually asked him, "Hey, Hogan, do you want to come and turn heel? We can do a heel turn for you." And Hogan said, "No, thank you. Have a nice day. There's the door." So, and I think this was when Hogan was still kind of a movie star. He was still kind of doing movies. So at this time he would have been doing, Mr. Nanny. There's another movie that he does where he's kind of like he's the hero of the movie. So, I'm looking at like maybe 94, 90, probably about 94-ish, like 95-ish. So that's our time range for this. But yeah, everyone remembers the big heel turn that Hogan did at Bash at the Beach in 96, and he was the mysterious third man. So, to be honest, I like, when Curt comes in, because everyone was like, "Oh, there's a spy among us," is what Bobby Heenan had been saying, in June and July. So when Curt came in at the end of June of 97, remember in 96, Curt was still commentating in the WWE, or the WWF, as it was known in that time frame. So I think that I'm not sure if he had when he talked to Eric Bischoff exactly. I don't think I remember Eric Bischoff giving a timeline of when he talked to him. But I do know that Curt's father, Larry the Axe, had been with him. And I mean, see, the thing is, why would Curt need a manager? I don't think he liked them. Like, not a manager, an agent. Agents kind of, I guess, as Curt would put it, they were only out for themselves. So Curt had his dad, and his dad would, make sure he went with them to make sure that Bischoff wasn't going to, screw him out of anything. And so I think that because of that, I just think that Curt may have thought, his WCW run wasn't as good because his dad was there to kind of say, "Hey, you're going to give my son this amount of money, but you're not going to screw him." So in the end, I think Eric Bischoff kind of did that. And I hate to say that because it's not right what Bischoff did. He should have given Curt, a run, a heavyweight run, but unfortunately, that didn't happen, especially because Hogan had the belt at this time. So, yeah, so to answer your question and then, kind of go a little further with it, 96 Bash at the Beach, everyone kind of remembers this, even, certain people, even if you don't know a lot about wrestling, I'm sure it was talked about back then. It was a big thing. I was 10 years old when it happened. So this is like July 96 and I would have been 10 in April. So yeah, it's a big thing to, do like that. And everyone had been talking about it. It's kind of like when people were speculating who was the higher power. Was it Jake the Snake? Was it Bret Hart? And it turned out to be Vince McMahon, because no one is higher than Vince McMahon. But this one we actually didn't know till the last minute that it was going to be Hogan, because of the Eric Bischoff thing. He figured Hogan would want nothing to do with it. Hogan was still kind of doing movies at the time, but I think his movie career had kind of wrapped up by then. I think it was around probably 96 when he did the movie, it might have also been early 97 as well, when, they did the movie, no, I can't remember it. Assault on Devil's Island. So Assault on Devil's Island was a movie he came out with in October of 97. So that would have been right after Halloween Havoc, or maybe right before. Yeah, I think it was right before Halloween Havoc. So Halloween Havoc in 97 is when Hogan would officially have that movie come out. So he might have been doing it in 96. And then he came back and became the third guy. So like I said, I just wanted to kind of finish what I was saying is, no one really knew who that third guy was. Now, we all know that, Sting was, approached and said, hey, Sting, would you like to turn, heel? And I don't think Sting would have been a good heel. I wasn't really much for Sting, even when he was a babyface or a heel. It didn't matter to me what they did with Sting. I just wasn't that kind of like Sting person. I wasn't into Sting. And I know that sounds really bad, but, everyone has their wrestlers that they hated and they liked. So some people for example, they liked Bret Hart, but they hated, Mr. Perfect, or they hated, Ultimate Warrior, or someone in that nature. But, so yeah, I mean, everyone has that, person that they don't like, but, and of course mine was like Sting and Raven, and, I didn't like Goldberg. I like some of the underling guys. So like the undercards or the midcards, guys. So at one point I did like Eddie Guerrero, but then he was like annoying. And who I really liked? I really liked watching Juventud Guerrera before and after the mask, because, that Mexican lucha libre kind of, moves that he would do were really, really awesome. And I can see why a lot of people like that kind of style of Mexican wrestling. It's so awesome to watch. It kind of reminds me of the Ultimo Dragon, who's another guy I watched, but he was more Japan. So he was a Japanese wrestler. And I can't tell you that, I mean, these guys, the way they put their bodies, or what they put their bodies through, was absolutely amazing. And I mean, he was a true Japanese wrestler. So he was already, he had already grown up into the system of Japanese wrestling. So I think that, this was, he was a good wrestler, and it was fun to watch him. I think he would spray this stuff, or maybe that was the Great Muta. The Great Muta would spray some kind of mist, and that was kind of cool to see. The Great Muta was also in the NWO. And he was international. I don't know if he was a heel over in Japan, but I do know that in Japan, the NWO was present there. So, because of the Great Muta being a Japanese wrestler. And of course, Curt and, I know that, Rick Rude was probably with him in Japan, because at that point they were going to come back to America, and Rick Rude was going to go ahead and manage Curt. But, I think he might have been with him in Japan. And I just recently, within the last couple of months, found Japanese matches when Curt was in AWA. There is a tag team match he did with Nick Bockwinkel over in Japan. So him and Nick Bockwinkel were adversaries in America, but they were actually tag team partners in Japan, which is fascinating to say the least. I don't know. I'm guessing they were both heels, because even though Curt was a babyface in America, I mean, usually over in Japan, I think I heard somewhere that usually the Japanese wrestlers were the baby faces, and the Americans were for the most part, were the heels. And that might not have been the case, but I do know that I saw a singles match with Curt this was when he was a babyface in AWA. It was a singles match with him and a Japanese wrestler, and he was a tag team with Nick Bockwinkel, which is kind of funny how they didn't let that leak over to AWA, because again, Curt was a babyface and Nick Bockwinkel was the heel at the time, and they were going to do a switch anyway I think this was in 86. It might have been 85. So like 85, 86. But this is before they actually, let Curt be a heel. So Curt was actually a babyface for a while, and then 87 came around, unless he was in Japan and they asked him to be a heel, I guess. So in Japan, I could see Curt saying, yeah, okay, I'll be a heel, because usually the Japanese wrestlers were the baby faces. Now that could be completely wrong, but that's what I was kind of told. I think it was Jim Cornette that said that usually the Japanese wrestlers were the ones who were the baby faces all the time. And then, you know, of course, the evil Americans and stuff. So they could get a lot more money that way. But yeah, I think if you look up, you may have to look up the Japanese wrestler, and I don't have that right now. But if you look up, Curt in AWA and then like maybe Japan wrestling, I don't know if it was New Japan, but it definitely was one of the Japan, outfits that actually, have a lot to do with that. I don't know if it was New Japan. It might have been, but if you just look up like, Curt Hennig wrestling in Japan, you're gonna get a hit, and it'll be him and Nick Bockwinkel. And these were amazing matches. I mean, he definitely could work even in Japan, and there is one with him in Tiger Mask that I was able to find, and this was more like when Curt was a heel over in the United States. So it's very interesting to see that, Curt was a baby face, and then him and Nick Bockwinkel, I guess, were heels together over in Japan, but they were in a tag team match, which was very, very interesting. And like I said, if you're interested in doing that, I can try to get you the links for those. I would get them off, YouTube as soon as possible. In fact, I'm probably going to do that and look for them. Because they are cool matches, and I just don't want to lose them, because you never know when they may say, oh, well, sorry, you can't play that on YouTube. Though I don't think any of the territories are copyrighted. They may be. I don't know. I don't know if anyone has really gotten the copyrights to AWA or Japan Wrestling or anything like that. So you may be able to at least keep those around for a while. But I would definitely try to get them off if you like that kind of stuff and want to see that. Like I said, it's like a limited time offer. So if you can look those up, find them if you can. And again, I would like to do watch-alongs to them, because I think they were awesome. When I saw them, I was like amazed. I was like, this is great, you know, to actually see Curt in Japan, and he's with Nick Bockwinkel. I mean, they were not tag team champs, but they were tag teamed. And over here in the States, they were actually enemies. So they were both, well, Curt was a babyface and Nick Bockwinkel was a heel. So it's very interesting. If you watch the match, I'm not really sure if you could tell or not if Curt was a heel or not. Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. So you definitely would have to look that up. So, I mean, if you can find those matches, they shouldn't be that hard to find. It's 85, so look up 85 AWA or Japan Wrestling, Curt Hennig and Nick Bockwinkel, Japan Wrestling. So, but yeah, I know we're still on the question, and the question was still, you know, try to, there we go. So the question still was, you know, when did Hogan become Hollywood Hogan? So I hope that answered your question. It was a great question. And it's something that us wrestling fans, we remember, especially if you lived during that time, which I did. I was 10 years old. I don't think I was watching wrestling yet. I mean, I had kind of taken a break from it, so I really wasn't watching it. I didn't see this turn until I was an adult and was able to see it for the first time, kind of like on Peacock So, I definitely think that it's something worth watching. If you do have Peacock, and you'd like to check it out, you're more than welcome to, check it out. It's Bash at the Beach. So it's, you just go to Bash at the Beach and then you would just look up, Bash at the Beach 96. And that's when, if you go towards the end, I think there was a tag team match between Savage and somebody. It might have been a singles match, but I'm not sure. But yeah, Hogan comes down and gives Savage, everyone thinks that he's on Savage's side, but and really the reason why Randy joined the NWO is kind of funny. I mean, he just week after week, they would beat the crap out of Randy Savage. And I'm not even kidding. Like, for example, they literally just beat him up every week. And eventually you just see him go back to the NWO. Or you see him join the NWO. It could have been because of Elizabeth, because she sort of was also in this. So, not too surprised really that, Randy Savage ended up joining the NWO. Okay. So I hope that answers your question. And like I said, that is a memorable moment of when Hogan, I do admit that Hogan was a better heel than he was a babyface, because I think that everyone was tired. I know everyone was tired of the whole Hulkamania thing. Some gimmicks, sometimes you just have to switch it up. So Hogan had been a babyface for so many years, since like 84. But when he first came in, he was a heel. Everyone, doesn't know that. But when he came into the AWA, and even I think when he was in other territories, I mean, he did start in other territories, and then he kind of came to the AWA, so says Greg Gagne, and, they kind of did something with him. But Hogan wasn't going anywhere in those territories, and then when Greg Gagne and Vern Gagne got a hold of him, they kind of took him and made him something, and then he ended up leaving and catching the eye. Well, he caught the eye of Vince McMahon, Jr., and then ended up leaving AWA anyway. And again, as everyone knows, Hogan was, everyone says Vince McMahon made Hogan, and they leave out Vern Gagne, but they forget that it was Vern that had done something with him beforehand. And when he first came in, he was a heel. And then they turned him and made him a babyface and kind of got him with those guys in 84 in the AWA. And then Hogan started to become very popular. The fans started to cheer him. And that's what caught the eye of Vince McMahon. So I don't think you can give complete credit to Vince McMahon. You would have to give some of that credit to Vern Gagne and Greg Gagne, because Hogan was very frustrated with where he was going, and it was because he was in several territories and not really doing well, and then Vern and Greg got a hold of him and then kind of made him catch the eye of Vince McMahon. And so there's a whole story about that too. If you look up Greg Gagne interviews and you want to know more, like I said, it's a lot of my wrestling knowledge of behind the scenes stuff. I just watch a lot of YouTube videos, and especially the older guys in the older territories will tell you that, that's kind of where they got their first break and where they kind of caught the eye of Vince McMahon. So when Vince was taking it national, of course, everyone wanted a piece of that pie, and Vince got what he wanted, and that was to take all the talent and put the territories out of business. So one hand washes the other, right? He could offer these lucrative contracts that these guys weren't getting in the territories unless you were in like Memphis or even Georgia at the time, or like a bigger territory. Like, cause when Curt was in Portland, and again, to get any of this knowledge, guys, all you'd have to do is watch some videos from those territories. I'm sure you can find Georgia wrestling. I'm sure you can find Memphis wrestling. You could probably find all those matches of, Andy Kaufman and Jerry Lawler. I'm sure you could find all those too. I'm sure they have them on YouTube somewhere, or maybe Daily Motion. You just have to do a Google search, and you could probably find old NWA stuff, and I'm sure you'll be able to find all that stuff. So, getting back to what I was saying, I watched an interview with Greg Gagne, and he tells the story of, like, you know, they had booked out St. Paul and Minneapolis with Hogan, and Hogan he sent him a telegram saying, I'm not showing up. Well, Vern Gagne didn't take it seriously because, Eddie Gilbert, anyway, him and his friend would rib each other all the time, and Hogan was living in Florida at the time. I think he might have been in the Florida territory, just kind of, you know, and they went through what I was finishing with Portland and Curt. A lot of the smaller territories, now Portland wasn't as big, okay? So, you know, I say a lot of these bigger territories. So Portland was sort of big. I would say they're kind of medium, but they only did like Washington, where the other territories were more, they did different states, okay? So Memphis didn't just do Tennessee. They did Tennessee, Alabama, probably even some of Texas. But there was also a Texas territory, and I don't think it lasted long. Not as long as Memphis. There's also Jim Crockett, who would take over, I think, maybe the Georgia and Carolinas. So again, guys, some of the bigger territories that we talk about today had a bigger, you know, chunk of the pie, so to speak, when it comes to states, where Portland was more just Washington. I don't think they really went out of state. I don't know if they went in, not Washington, Oregon. So I'm not really sure if they went into other states other than Oregon. So Portland, Oregon, Tacoma, no, not Tacoma. They would do just stuff around, you know, Oregon. So little towns and little cities around Portland. But it was mainly called Portland because that's where they probably would broadcast out of. Okay. But many of the smaller territories, such as Portland, who kind of, it was kind of like Dallas. There was a Dallas or Texas territory, but they were more Dallas, Houston, Austin. They kind of stayed in Texas is what I'm getting at. Same with Portland. Portland stayed in Oregon, not Washington. I apologize. But they mostly stayed kind of like within like those little towns and city limits. They didn't go, you know, state to state, kind of like Memphis did, or AWA, or, because AWA had, well, they had Minnesota. At one point they would have Nevada, because they did do some, I would say pay-per-views, but they weren't really pay-per-views. But something like that, they would have their bigger shows in like Las Vegas. They did have a portion of Canada, Winnipeg, that was not covered by the Calgary, like Stampede Wrestling. That was Stu Hart. So AWA had Winnipeg, Canada, and again, they would have mostly the parts of Canada that Calgary wouldn't touch. So, they did have Winnipeg and probably maybe the surrounding towns of Canada. And then they had Minnesota, of course. They had, South and North Dakota, because I know there's a story with Curt and the Nasty Boys in I think it was South Dakota. It might have been North Dakota. I'm not sure. But they had most of that, Midwestern states, plural. Whereas Portland just kind of had Portland, and then they had small cities and towns surrounding there. And I'm not saying that they couldn't venture out, but most of the smaller territories is what I'm getting at. They didn't pay their wrestlers. Sometimes they didn't pay them. And I don't know. I mean, they would pay their jobbers or their workers, like the jobbers, the guys who would show up and get beat every week. I don't know. Because I've never seen an interview with Curt and asking him if they actually paid him in Portland. I don't know. My guess is he probably did get paid, but only a certain amount. And he, like I said, he would go to different territories. So I told a story recently on the second episode of Pro Wrestling Talk, to Angel and them that Curt actually was in different territories. He was in Puerto Rico. He would go to Memphis. He would go to, I'm sure he went to Jim Crockett, and he also probably went to Florida with Dusty. The thing is, you guys have to realize that they didn't stay very long. If they did a job for another territory, they weren't staying long. Maybe a couple weeks, if that. So you guys have to remember that these territories were pretty stiff when it came to paying the wrestlers. And I'm sure some wrestlers had jobs, during the day. And then, on the weekends, they would be wrestlers or whatever, or they would go to different towns and different cities. Because I think only if you were like a champion in one of these territories could you actually get paid anything worth the amount that you would need to survive. And, a lot of these guys had families and they needed that money. So I think that, Curt, to keep himself afloat, and because he did want to do this full time, he may have had a job, in Oregon when I think he had a house. Brooklyn Brawler might have said this, that he actually had a house in Oregon, in Portland. And, that he might have even had a job, and then when he would wrestle at night, of course. I'm not sure, if Curt wanted to do it full time. He may not have had a job, and wrestled too. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. No one really sat him down and asked him about Portland wrestling. I would love to do that. Sit down and have a conversation with Curt about Portland, about AWA. The interview I have kind of touches on it. Like he talks about, big Nick Bockwinkel and those matches with him, but he doesn't really go into like Portland and stuff or talk about Buddy Rose or anything, other than what I've seen of him with Buddy Rose in Portland. So I think that, getting back to the Hogan thing, if you want to watch those interviews with Greg Gagne, you just look up, interview with Greg Gagne, or Greg talks about this or Greg talks about that. And he'll tell you that literally once they got that telegram, Vern Gagne ripped it up because, he thought it was a rib. And then, they had sold out and they had Andre the Giant too. So they had not only Minneapolis and St. Paul, events completely sold out because it was going to be Hogan versus Andre the Giant. And Vern had I think this is, you can blame this on Hogan, but you also have to blame it on Vern. Because Vern should have at least said something. So the telegram that Hogan sent was, "I'm not coming back." And it just said, "I'm not coming back." It wasn't signed Terry. It wasn't signed Hulk Hogan or anything like that. It was literally just, "I'm not coming back." And it was postmarked, from Florida. And that's where Hogan was living at the time. So like I said, when Vern got it or received it, he tore it up. He thought it was a big rib. So when the time came around for these shows, Hogan didn't show up. I think they were in like Christmas shows. So like they would be in December. And that's when they could only get Andre the Giant for certain times of the the season. And I mean, they were completely sold out, and they were going to do so much with Hogan. That's what Greg says. You know, I'm only relaying what Greg Gagne would say, and he said, you know, we were going to do something with Hogan. We just didn't want to tell anybody because stuff gets leaked, and, you know, they already know what's coming. But I think, honestly, if they had told Hogan what they were going to do with him, I don't think he would have left in '84. And I think AWA probably could have given, you know, WWF a run for their money. But unfortunately, Vern didn't tell anybody because he was afraid that it would get leaked and then, oh, the jig is up. So there were certain things, he kept his things very close to the chest, as Greg would say. And Greg will tell you himself, his dad was very private on some things. And this was one of them, and I think it really came back to bite Vern in the behind. I feel bad for Vern. You know, I feel bad for him, but then I'm kind of like, well, why didn't you just say something? You could have told Hogan. But again, I mean, you could say, well, the telegram wasn't signed, it wasn't marked. You know, it just said, I'm not coming back, and postmark Florida. So I want to put as little of blame on Vern Gagne as I can, because I do like the guy. I thought the guy was pretty cool. And if you talk to Curt, you know, I'm sure Curt admired Vern. Him and his dad knew each other. And him and Greg were also close. They had kind of grown up together, even though Greg was 10 years older. They still knew each other because their fathers knew each other. And there is a match where, Larry and Vern are strapped together and they try to help their sons and they can't because the other one pulls the other back. And like, well, if I can't help my son, you can't help your son. So I think, in those matches, again, you can just look up AWA, matches between Curt and Vern and stuff, or Curt and Greg, excuse me. And that's where I heard the whole, well, I'm going to go get my sister. I'll go get my little sister to beat you up. And I was just like, how little are we talking here? But anyway, so that's my thing on Hogan. Hogan could have been, I think, a bigger star than he would have been if Vern had just kind of spilled the beans only to him. And I don't think, it depends on when Hogan talked to Vince. Because once he talked to Vince, he was like, well, I'm not coming back. You know, and they said, well, why are you not coming back? And Hogan's response was, well, I'm making more money not coming back. Not, you know, going with my commitments. So I think that kind of miffed not only Vern, or Greg, but also Vern too. And they have a right to feel betrayed. I mean, like I said, but you can't blame it all on Vince and Hogan. You know, Vern should have came out with it and said, hey, I have some big things coming up for you, Hogan. So you just sit tight. We're going to show you what this is. Because Hogan didn't think he was going to be a big star. I mean, he was selling out the territory, but in his mind, he wasn't doing what he should have been. And that's where I was like, well, Vern, just tell him, you know, that he's going to be a big star and he's going to take AWA to new heights that they've never seen before. Unfortunately, Vince got to him first. And I put that on Vern because Vern shouldn't have held it to his chest so much. He should have at least shared it with Hogan. So, there's a lot of to blames for that, but I think, you know, a little bit of that blame has to go back on Vern, and not all of it. Like I said, Vern, was very surprised when Hogan didn't show up. And again, they called him and he's like, I sent a telegram. Oh, well, we thought that was a big rip, you know. But if you ever want to, you know, cross-check me or you think I'm just blowing smoke out your butt, you can definitely go check that out. It's called Title Match, I think is the channel. And it's just an interview with, Greg Gagne, and they did it back in 2015. So, where he talks about everything AWA. He talks about Hogan and what happened there. I don't think he talks about Curt much, but he was prominent in Curt's documentary. So if you want to see that it's the life and times of Mr. Perfect, Greg has a lot to do with that. I think, honestly, if Greg hadn't have done that for Curt, I don't think there would be a Mr. Perfect documentary. And that's how you could see that they were close because, you know, if it wasn't for Greg, I don't think that would have happened. But we're going to go ahead and watch the match, with, Shawn Michaels. And we are going to, I just want to talk a little bit about this match. So, I have an announcement in the next segment and I'm going to announce it while we're watching it. I found out recently that there is new developments. And it's because this was a house show. It wasn't televised. So that's all I'm going to say is it wasn't televised. So no one knew this or no one could have known this. And I think the belt changed hands again on another house show that no one saw. So a little bit about this match. This is 93. So this will be August of 93. And this is, Curt's getting real close to, he kind of disappears from Survivor Series. He does some promos for Survivor Series 93, but you kind of don't see him in November. He kind of disappears in like October, November. I'm not really sure when he kind of disappears there, but he was having, back issues at the time. And, he also was having some personal problems at home. So, I do think that, you know, if he could have, if his back hadn't been hurt, I don't think that, you know, he would have disappeared there. And eventually he will show up again on, at WrestleMania 10. He is the special guest referee. We will do a watch along to that match. But right now we're going to talk about, SummerSlam 1993. A great match again. Diesel had just come in. So Kevin Nash as Diesel. And as as Nash will put it, he's kind of there to be Shawn Michaels' bodyguard. Okay. He's there to keep the ladies away from Shawn Michaels. Even though we would hear the chants of Shawn is G-A-Y. So I think, and these are, you know, great matches for Curt. I mean, he would have eventually have a feud with, Shawn Michaels. It would most likely start after WrestleMania 9 because, of course, we watched along and it was, you know, Shawn Michaels jumping Curt in the back when he was, you know, going after Luger, who had just kind of knocked him out. And, I mean, we're going to see that match, you know, eventually I'm going to drop that episode. So, if you missed that episode and I've already dropped it, just go ahead and stop this and go listen to the WrestleMania 9. We do go over the fact that, you know, Luger goes in the back after knocking out Curt and then, Shawn Michaels jumps him when Curt goes to look for Luger. And you can tell that, you know, Curt's not happy. So, but that officially is when that little feud will start and it will kind of end. I would say, maybe a little after Survivor Series. Now he does kind of have something brewing with Bam Bam Bigelow and, what's her name? Luna Vachon. Like he has a promo out there that I thought it was hilariously funny. He goes, what is the deal with her? You know, you don't, give her water after midnight. You don't feed her after midnight. It's like a gremlin or something. And you hear Luna go, I'm like, my gosh, is she gonna like charge him like a bull? Jeez. And, you know, Bam Bam Bigelow kind of says, she's my main squeeze. I was like, oh, BKB. I don't even know what that is. Don't ask me. I don't know. But, it is, a really cool match, SummerSlam. Yes, Diesel does come into it. I think he just came into it like July, I want to say June or July, of that year. So 93. And, this is for the Intercontinental Championship. So, and they're saying, about 3-peeing, repeating 3 times or getting the championship 3 times. But like I said, I have an announcement about that. So stay tuned for the match. And like I said, this is a great match for both. I just think that, I think Curt's back was really bothering him. I don't know if maybe this is how the match was supposed to end. I haven't really heard anything from either side, or seen anything. Even Nashville, he didn't really talk about SummerSlam, or not that I've seen he's talk about SummerSlam 93. If anyone has any information about that, let me know. You can DM me on X, and all my stuff will be in the description field. So, feel free to DM me and say, no, you're wrong. Shawn did talk about this, or Nash talked about this. Maybe Shawn talked about it in his book. I haven't even started Shawn Michaels' book. I was thinking about getting rid of it because I'm not really much for Shawn Michaels. But, we'll just leave it at that. That I to be continued. So hopefully someone will know that answer. But, it's a great match. I just think, like I said, cause at one point you do hear Curt swear. And I just think that his back was bothering him, and he just kind of said, Shawn, I can't do this. We gotta end this. I'd hate to say that because Curt was the consummate professional and he wouldn't give up a match. So I'm going to say that it was planned to have a DQ and for him not to win. Okay? So I will get everything together and I'll catch you on the flip side. Okay, guys. So it looks like we're going to go ahead and, wow, I got a new microphone. That sounds awesome. So if you're going to go to your Peacock subscription, if you have one, great. It's SummerSlam 1993, which is season 6, episode 1, and I'm 25 minutes in. So 25:22. You'll see Scott Steiner standing there. We're just going to skip this, but I'm going to keep it down because there is music that's going to play. And go ahead and hit now. So there's Scott Steiner. He's just kind of okaying the crowd there. Looks like his mouth is bleeding a little bit too. I wasn't much for the Steiner brothers, guys, I have to admit. Oh, here's Shawn Michaels.
This is bigger than life. Thank you, Vince McMahon, for bringing me on board. We've just seen a title match. We're about to see another one. Shawn Michaels has the Intercontinental belt. He's going to take on Mr. Perfect. Shawn is here along with his bodyguard Diesel. Shawn, you've won it, you've lost it, you've won it. Can you hang on to this thing?
Now all the questions are going to be answered. Who is the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time?
Curt Hennig.
Perfect, or is it Shawn Michaels? Well, all those answers.
It's not Shawn Michaels.
Are going to come across tonight, and I will prove to everybody, you and all the world, Shawn Michaels is the greatest.
Well, wait a minute. They say that Mr. Perfect cost you to lose it, and Diesel won it back for you.
True.
Who's the one that's wearing it? It's Shawn Michaels. So I must have won it. Isn't that right, Diesel? That's right. The heartbreak.
Oh, God, Kevin Nash.
Everybody knows the chicks dig this guy. I'm here just to keep him off the chin.
Yeah, right. Shut up. Shut up.
The action is they are headed for the ring as we speak, so we better do the same thing. This is Joe Fowler reporting. Let's go where the action is.
All right, I'm going to turn this down, guys, because they're going to play music here. So, trying to get it down. There we go. So keep it going, guys. They're just going to do the entrances, and we'll just talk during the entrances. So, I do have something that I wanted to kind of say, now that we have it here, that I actually saw a recent video that, well, I'm just going to come out and say it. I actually saw Curt 3P at a house show. Okay, so I was on X and I saw this video of Curt and stuff. And he had a match with Shawn Michaels, and hot damn, I mean, he literally, 3P'd. He won the belt. Apparently he had, the perfect plex on Shawn Michaels, and there was the ref was down. I'm guessing, I don't know if Shawn, I don't remember at this point if Shawn pulled the ref in the way or something. But, I do know that another ref came out and counted Shawn down. And then the first ref was like, I didn't count Shawn, it was, a disqualification or whatever. So the refs were having like a little fight. And I guess what happened was they ended up giving Curt the belt. I was like, Curt, just go. Just leave, Don't, stand around and let them take the belt from you. So, Curt actually leaves with the belt. My guess is that they probably gave it back to him. And here comes Curt. Curt looks great. What's really crazy is I can't believe that, there's Jim Ross, and of course they show Gorilla. But, I can't believe that he actually 3P'd before he 3B'd. Does that make any sense whatsoever? Probably not. But, yeah, I love this. Of course, there's Mr. Perfect. There's Curt. Now that's perfect. That's right. So, they're probably still playing his music, so. Yeah. He's gonna go to the rings. Of course, people are cheering him. I mean, why not, He was a babyface at this time. Alright, we're gonna turn it up. Come on, Curt.
I think you would have to agree that Mr. Perfect has been the mentor, and indeed Shawn Michaels has tried to follow in the footsteps of Mr. Perfect. It's safe to say that Shawn Michaels perhaps knows everything that Mr. Perfect taught him. Well, let's put it this way. Perfect is super. He is really skilled at what he does. But Shawn Michaels, I believe Perfect even watched Delta Michaels pick up his. Don't forget, it was Perfect that caused Michaels to lose the title to Marty Jannetty.
That's right. And we're going to watch along to that too. It was a Monday Night Raw where Marty Jannetty came back, and of course Curt was helping Marty Jannetty. I like the lumberjack match. We're also going to do that one too, because I just think it adds to the whole match, and it adds to the whole Curt Hennig thing too. Curt getting back at Shawn.
Safe to say, Bobby Heenan, that the victor of this matchup is going to be the one who does not make the mistakes.
Well, that's it. Neither of them are really going to go up there and make a lot of mistakes. It's that one mistake that's going to cost them. And Perfect, who's in Perfect's corner?
Who's in Perfect's corner?
Yeah.
Just about every fan jam-packing by Palace in his corner. Come on.
The fans mean nothing.
Fans mean nothing. Thanks, Bobby.
Shawn Michaels, and to the buckle he goes.
Michaels set him up on that move.
He did indeed.
That's what's called thinking 3 or 4 moves ahead.
Reverse, so what's Michaels going to do here? He's on the response.
Let's see, Shawn, I don't know if Shawn picked up some moves or the bumps that Curt would do, but that's sort of like a Curt bump there where he would kind of twist around just from being clotheslined.
Well, Michaels will never give up. The man's not a quitter. You're going to have to pin him or some kind of a fluke. He's going to have to work.
Curt looks so tan. I think he admitted that he had, sunburn at one point. I think there's one picture I have where it looks like Curt has major sunburn.
He has been a perennial contender for every title the WWF has had, even before then.
Well, no one's taking it away from what a great athlete, second generation wrestler and everything. But he has to beat Shawn Michaels to win the title. Shawn doesn't have to beat him. That's simple.
That's a good point. To the buckle and Perfect.
Look at these moves. Look at these moves.
Going up to the top now. Hard wrist maneuver and Shawn Michaels pressing back. Shawn Michaels takedown. And another one. Perfect arm driving him off the top rope. 2, yes. Oh, that was so close.
That was really close.
And remember, ladies and gentlemen, in WWF, you must make your opponent submit or you must pin him in order to win a title. You cannot win a championship or a disqualification or a count-out. Diesel looking on. Perhaps a look of concern we saw moments ago on the face of Diesel.
Steiner doesn't look too good, does he?
What do you mean? What are you talking about, Mr. Heath? The Steiners unquestionably are celebrating as we speak. Who will be celebrating after this matchup is over? Shawn Michaels.
Unfortunately, Shawn Michaels.
To the rope now. Michaels trying to set him up. All back. Missing again. Drop kick. Oh, look at this. Shawn Michaels on the run.
Oh, my goodness.
I think Mr. Perfect coming over. Just a couple from behind. Look out. Keep an eye on him. Keep Diesel away from Perfect. Oh, unbelievable.
Super kick. Or actually, I should say sweet chin music that will become.
You know, I hate a guy with a big mouth.
I do too.
Me too.
Look at this. Michaels now.
Oh, he's
Look out, Michaels coming right off again. Unbelievable.
Put that moves to him, Shawn. Here, use the monitor. Hey,
Stand on this.
Come on, Curt.
Shawn to Perfect both men back in the ring now. Unquestionably, it's Shawn Michaels with the momentum. Michaels, a succession of knees rammed to the back. More damage done to the lower back area. Look at this. Michaels is just all over Mr. Perfect. All over it.
Not the back.
Shawn Michaels, he's working on the lower back. He knows Perfect won't be able to pick him up or do anything once that lower back goes out. Look at the arrogance. Is that great? Is he confident? Is he conceited? Does he have it all?
Is he going to lose the Intercontinental title?
Oh, you bet. No, he's not.
Oh. And again, more damage done to the back area of Mr. Perfect. Shawn Michaels unquestionably with the upper hand as we speak.
Yeah, not the back, please.
What's he going to do? Again, rammed forearm to the back area.
Hit him again, Shawn.
And again.
Hit him again.
Wait a minute. No coaching here. Hey, you pay attention to your broadcasting. Mr.
I get so
Perfect.
excited.
Set up and go. Oh, my God.
The ring moved over like a flame.
Not the back, please.
0 to the official by jump out of here. Oh, come on.
Get off his back, Shawn.
Is he rubbing it in? Oh, damn it. Oh, unbelievable.
I don't know if you heard that, but Curt just swore right there. Please, not the back. And they didn't take that out either. I'm surprised they didn't.
Snap back. Look at this. Snap off. What pain Mr. Perfect must be in. Come on, snap him like a Slim Jim.
Perfect. Just may submit for the first time in his long and illustrious wrestling career. Look at the chin being shut back. Perfect appears to be defenseless.
He is. There's nothing you can do there.
And Shawn Michaels not about to relent the pressure at all. What's that possibly crowd? Wait a minute. Perfect's starting to move. Perfect.
Something. Oh, not the back.
Punched his way out of it.
Yeah, I like that. You have to do what you have to do, Bob.
Yeah, you have to do what you have to do. Kurt's back must be almost shot.
You've said that. I haven't said that. You've said that.
Mr. Perfect. Oh, yes, nice uppercut. Perfect. Perhaps risking disqualification, but he had to do something. Missing it around elsewhere. And go. Big block. Stop. Go. Perfect. Back on his feet. Michaels for the ride.
I'm not sure Michael's known where
Oh, be careful.
Oh, how this matchup was turned. Look at that knee lift all the way into the official. Oh, how this
Hey, ref, get out of the way. Atomic drop.
almost a 3-beat.
you gotta hook the tights like I told you. Hook the tights, dummy.
Hook the tights.
Yeah, you do anything you can. You just
Sorry if you guys can hear the wind. Wind is really nasty today, so I apologize.
Covering quickly. With the cover. Oh, good. 1, 2, yes.
no. He's still got that fight left in him.
This one is just as hard a match to watch as the SummerSlam 1991 with Brett.
Toss now. Block. What's going to happen now?
And we also will watch along to the babyface versus babyface match. Oh God, not the back. Oh, boy. Hey, Nash, you stay out of this. Get back in the ring. Ref, get out of the way. Oh,
Well, Perfect asked for it. Referee didn't see it, but the referee didn't see it.
oh God.
You better believe us. The winner of this bout as a result of a countout and still Intercontinental Champion.
Well, that whole thing with his back, oh my gosh. Again, I apologize, that is the wind. So, they knock out Curt as I go to the back, and I mean, it's basically, they're going to do a little interview here, and unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to turn it up because I got music, but yeah, it was a bad match because, again, I just think that either this was predetermined or Curt his back just gave out and, enough is enough. I'd hate to say that because Curt deserved to win, so there he is. Go get him, Curt. Get him. That's right. Go get him. Yeah. Go get Shawn Michaels. Alright, so if we can go ahead and hit pause now, you should be at 43:16, and you should see Sean Waltman, who was the 1-2-3 kid, who had a back and forth with Razor Ramon because he kind of surprised Razor Ramon at the time. It looks like he's going to go against IRS there. Yeah, I don't know. Here's Brett and Jerry Lawler. Somehow Doink is involved. I'm just checking. I don't think they do anything else with Curt. But I just want to double check. There's Jim Cornette. Go figure that one out. Okay, I don't see anything here. Don't see anything here. Lex Luger. Yeah, okay. So anyway, that was the SummerSlam match. I have to do a little bit of editing there because I just don't need that part where the music is. But like I said, there could have been one of two things of why this occurred or happened like this. And I think majorly the part where I want to say the reason why it kind of ended the way it did is because Curt's back was just bothering him and he couldn't take it anymore. So, I'm going to go ahead and put everything away, but I thank you so much for watching that along with me, and I'll catch you on the flip side. Okay guys, we're back. So, just to finish up here, it was a great match between Shawn Michaels and Curt Hennig, or Mr. Perfect. I just think that there's a lot of things that could have been redone here. And like I said, with the announcement of what I found is that he 3P'd already. So he actually already had that Intercontinental Championship belt 3 times. You just didn't get to see it. And I would love to do a watch along with that. Unfortunately, you guys wouldn't be able to, unless you would go on YouTube. They may still have it on YouTube. I downloaded it as fast as I could off of YouTube so that I could have it. If it is still on YouTube, we definitely will watch along to it. And he just kind of walks out with it. And it's a great match. It's so fun to watch. This was before Kevin Nash, so he would not be at ringside. It just would be Shawn Michaels at that point. But this was an all great match. I just can't say enough good things about it. It's just, I think that Curt was kind of getting to the point of, man, my back is really bothering me. I need some rest. He was having personal problems at home. So I think that a lot of factors would go into that. And I just think that it all came to a head at once. And that's why he kind of disappears in October or November and doesn't show up for Survivor Series 93. And then he will come back and be a special guest referee at WrestleMania 10. And then he kind of sticks around for a little bit and then leaves again. And again, a lot of personal problems at home. Plus his back was probably still bothering him at this point. But he does come back in, I think it was like November or December of 95 when Jerry Lawler goes back to wrestling. Curt kind of takes over the commentating, and then from like 95 to 96 is when Curt will commentate and do all that stuff. So, and then eventually he will go to WCW. But what I like most about this match is that they make you think, oh, he was, screwed in the end because of Kevin Nash. And he gets counted out because of Kevin Nash. And I would have loved to have seen this feud go on. Unfortunately, Curt just had personal things that he had to take care of. And he also had a bad back at this time. So there's a lot of factors of why he didn't come back and why he sort of made a run of, special guest referee at WrestleMania 10. I know a lot of fans were kind of disappointed that Curt kind of disappears, at the end of 93, like November, and he's not even in the Survivor Series. I get why you would be upset, but, again, when your back is bothering you and you need time, there's just, and of course he was having personal problems. So, a lot of things go into the factor here. So, I just think that it just came all to a head, and unfortunately he just couldn't be with us at Survivor Series 93. So he eventually would come back, but not to wrestle. It would be to referee. So, if you liked what you heard and you'd like to see more stuff from me, you can always, sub, comment, like, share. The last time I looked, I was at, here we'll do an official count, 72.95. Guys, I'm so overwhelmed. I'm so overwhelmed and happy and excited. Like I said, I'm so glad that there's people out there who would love to hear me drone on and tell all the stories I know about Curt Hennig and everything I've heard, everything I've seen. Kit was kind of saying, about notes and stuff. The thing is, I don't really need notes. And here's why. I don't really need to write anything down except for the first part, cause I kind of get jumbled in what I want to say, and then I forget I wanted to say this and forget I want to say that. This part I just kind of wing because I have the knowledge in my head. I've seen all this stuff. I've heard of all this stuff. And I always say, you can just look it up on YouTube and you'll find it eventually. So the other thing I would like to watch along to is his interview, Curt's radio interview he did in 2000 with a radio host. And what's funny is he was actually meeting Brock Lesnar at the gym so that they could work out together. So that's kind of interesting there. And like I said, I would love to watch along to that. It's all audio, which is good, but it's just all audio like I am. So, also on the new episode of Pro Wrestling Talk, episode 3, we are going to talk about the passing of Mike Jones, or he was known as Virgil or Vincent. I think he also went into the West Texas Rednecks. He would be Curly Bill. I believe that was his name. I'm so sorry for the passing of him. I didn't even know he was sick. I'm very sorry, and I would love to send condolences to him and his family. Unfortunately these things will happen in threes. So Ole Anderson also passed. I didn't know Ole Anderson that well. But I will say that I did see an interview where he just does not like Ric Flair. And what's funny is him and Flair were all in the Four Horsemen, but he does not like Ric Flair at all. So I just I sat back and watched that interview with him. I think it was done in like 2014, 2015. And it's a good one if you want to just look up Ole Anderson interviews. It was a good one that I watched, and seeing a lot of these older wrestlers when they talk about the territories and they talk about certain wrestlers, they're good stories. They're great stories, and they always have great stories. And you can also look for like shoot interviews about Ric Flair. You can look for shoot interviews about pretty much anybody, Savage, Luger, Ric Flair, of course, Hogan. There's some shoot interviews about Hogan. I'm sure you can find lots of stuff about Hogan, because Terry doesn't always tell the truth. So, and people have debunked what he has said. I think I even saw one for Harley Race. So if you guys are interested in, like I said, if you ever think I'm blowing smoke, trust me, I'm not. Like I said, I don't write anything down because I just kind of want to talk about a certain topic. I think this is why, like, I go from topic and then I'll start talking about something else and then go on a rant about something else. Like, I'll start talking about something and then I'll end up somewhere else. So, and I like that because I think it adds to the story of everything I've seen, everything I've heard, and that way, maybe I should have notes. Maybe I should write stuff down. But, for me, I would rather just kind of wing it and talk about certain things and give you the facts, give you what I've seen, what I've heard, what people have talked about. Like I said, I'm a big Jim Cornette fan and I am a cult member. of Jim Cornette. And, in fact, I was thinking maybe I should just listen to Jim Cornette about AEW. And trust me when I say Jim Cornette has a lot to say. He knows what he's talking about because he's been there. He's done that. I've seen on X, I've seen plenty of his, it's like a corny out of context or no context for Jim Cornette. Same thing with Dusty. Dusty has one too. And I love those little sayings from Dusty and from Jim Cornette. So, again, it's really that I do research, but I do research on things because I love to watch a lot of videos. And that's where a lot of my information will come from. It literally will come from the fact that I have listened, I have learned. I'm a very visual person, so I learn from actually watching. In fact, I told a lot of people this, that I actually crochet. I learned how to crochet from my mom, so she would teach me the stitch, the chain stitch and then the single stitch. Anything else, I learned off of YouTube and watching other people do it. So I can do like a half double, double. I can do a double, half double, and a triple, or what they call a treble. But I won't bore you with those details. But mostly, if you guys have seen my makeup, I have a lot of makeup things that I will do that I've seen. So anyway, I'm just gonna close, cause I just got a call. So, so I gotta wrap up early. Apparently my boss hurt himself. So, I'll tell you in a minute. So I'm going to go, guys. Thank you so much for supporting me, like I said. And if you can, support me on Patreon for as low as $1. If you can do $3, $5, $10, awesome. You'll get a lot of behind the scenes stuff if you can become a Patreon. All things will be in the description field. Thank you so much for listening, and have a great night, guys. And remember, nobody beats Mr. Perfect. Nobody.